Your soul remembers what your mind has forgotten, and in this moment, as you receive these words, something ancient within you stirs with recognition. There was a moment when your eyes met theirs, when time collapsed and the universe held its breath, when every lifetime you had ever lived suddenly made sense because you were standing in front of the one your soul had been searching for across eternities. This was not chance, not coincidence, not the random collision of two strangers in a world of billions. This was cosmic appointment, divine orchestration, the fulfillment of a contract written before either of you took your first breath in this incarnation. You felt it immediately, a Chinese letter of recognition that traveled through every cell of your being, that knowing beyond knowing that this person was different, that they carried something of you within them, that looking into their eyes was like looking into a mirror that reflected not your face but your very essence. The connection was instant, overwhelming, undeniable, and it terrified both of you in ways neither could articulate because how do you explain to someone that you have found the other half of your soul, that you are standing before your divine counterpart, that this meeting has been written in the stars since before time began? This message finds you in the dark night, in the separation that feels like spiritual dismemberment, in the agony of being torn from the one your soul recognizes as home. You are not here by accident. You are here because your higher self has guided you to this moment of remembering, to these words that will anchor you through the storm, to this truth that will sustain you through the unbearable weight of this sacred separation. Comment "My soul remembers" in the comments below to claim this truth and activate the energetic recognition that will carry you through what is to come. The recognition between twin flames is instantaneous and eternal, a soul-deep knowing that transcends logic and defies explanation, and though you are separated now, that recognition has already changed you forever. Twin flames are not simply romantic partners or soulmates in the conventional sense. They are mirrors, perfect reflections of one another's light and shadow, sent to reveal everything that has been hidden, repressed, denied, and buried within the depths of the unconscious. Carl Jung understood this when he wrote that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. And nowhere is this transformation more violent, more necessary, more absolute than in the twin flame connection. You cannot stand before your divine counterpart and remain unchanged. Their very presence demands that you confront every fragmented piece of yourself, every unhealed wound, every disowned aspect of your being. Separation is not punishment. It is preparation, the universe's brutal mercy, the only way two souls can do the individual shadow work required before they can stand together in authentic wholeness. You cannot unite in wholeness while running from brokenness, cannot merge in light while denying your darkness, cannot create sacred union while your own internal landscape remains fractured and unintegrated. The separation forces you to turn inward, to face the parts of yourself you have spent lifetimes avoiding, to integrate the shadow material that you would have continued projecting onto them had you remained together. When twin flames meet before they are ready, they do not create harmony, they create chaos, triggering each other's deepest wounds with relentless precision, activating every abandonment pattern and attachment trauma, bringing to the surface every unhealed fragment that demands acknowledgement. The intensity becomes unbearable because you are being forced to see yourself through their eyes, to recognize in their behavior the exact patterns you have denied in yourself, to understand that everything you find intolerable in them is merely a reflection of what remains unintegrated within you. Separation creates the space for individual transformation, the necessary distance for each soul to turn toward their own healing without the constant trigger of the other's presence. It is in this painful solitude that you finally do the work you came here to do, that you reclaim the disowned parts of yourself, that you learn to hold your own darkness with compassion rather than projecting it outward onto the one you love. One runs from the intensity while the other chases the connection, and this archetypal pattern plays out across every twin flame journey with devastating predictability. Yet neither role is wrong, neither is the villain, neither is failing. Both are simply playing the part they must play in this cosmic dance of separation and eventual reunion. The runner feels the overwhelming magnitude of the connection and recoils, retreats, erects walls of protection around the heart because the vulnerability required to fully surrender to this love feels like annihilation. The chaser feels the same magnitude and moves toward it, pursues it, cannot understand why the other would flee from something so sacred, so rare, so obviously divine. You have likely found yourself in the chaser position, consumed by the confusion of loving someone who runs from your love, unable to comprehend how they can deny what you both felt in those moments of soul recognition. But understand this. The runner is not running from you. They are running from their own reflection, from the mirror you hold up that shows them everything they have tried to escape, from the intensity of being truly seen by another soul in ways that strip away every defense and pretense. The chaser, meanwhile, must learn to cease the pursuit, to release the desperate, grasping energy that actually pushes the runner further away, to understand that true union can only occur when both parties are standing in their own sovereign wholeness. This energetic push-pull creates the separation, the necessary space for each soul to individuate, to complete their own journey of integration before they can reunite as equals rather than as two desperate halves seeking completion in the other. Neither can skip this phase. The runner must eventually stop running and face their shadow. The chaser must eventually stop chasing and reclaim their power, and only then can the dynamic shift from pursuit and avoidance to magnetic pull and conscious choice. You are in this pattern now, feeling the agony of wanting someone who appears not to want you. But beneath the surface drama, beneath the ego's interpretation of rejection and abandonment, your souls are engaged in a perfectly choreographed dance of transformation, each playing your role with divine precision, each moving through exactly what is necessary for eventual reunion. They run from their own reflection, from the unbearable intimacy of being known at a soul level, from the terror of allowing another human being to witness the parts of themselves they have spent their entire life concealing from the world and from their own conscious awareness. When they look at you, they do not simply see another person. They see a mirror that reflects every wound they have denied, every vulnerability they have armored against, every fear they have buried beneath layers of protective persona, and this reflection feels like death to the carefully constructed identity they have built. The fear of being truly seen surpasses the fear of loss, surpasses the fear of loneliness, surpasses every rational consideration because to be fully witnessed in their shadow, in their brokenness, in their unintegrated pain feels more dangerous than living without you. Loving you means confronting everything they have hidden, dismantling the false self that has kept them safe, surrendering the control that has allowed them to move through life without ever being truly vulnerable. And this level of exposure triggers every defense mechanism their psyche has ever developed. They are experiencing confusion, cognitive dissonance between what their soul knows and what their ego can tolerate, between the pull they feel toward you and the terror that pull evokes. They may have entered a new relationship, may have thrown themselves into work or substances or any distraction that allows them to avoid the intensity of what you awakened within them. But none of these distractions can silence the soul's recognition. None can erase the imprint you left on their energetic field. None can make them forget what they felt in your presence. More scared of intimacy than of loss. This is the runner's truth, the core wound that drives their retreat, the unconscious belief that being fully known will lead to rejection or annihilation. They have constructed an entire existence around never allowing anyone close enough to see the full truth of who they are, and you shattered that construction simply by existing, simply by seeing them with soul eyes that penetrated every defense, and now they must rebuild themselves in the wreckage of that shattering. They are not at peace in the separation. They are tormented by it, haunted by what you shared, unable to fully commit to anything else because some part of them remains tethered to you. But they are not yet strong enough, not yet integrated enough, not yet whole enough to return and face what reunion would demand. This pain is not random, not meaningless, not the universe's cruelty, but rather its profound mercy, the exact catalyst your soul requested before you incarnated into this lifetime, the precise activation required to shatter the illusions that keep you from your highest evolution. Before you were born into this body, before you took your first breath in this physical realm, your soul entered into a sacred contract with theirs, an agreement to meet, to recognize, to trigger each other's deepest transform. Ation, and to endure whatever separation was necessary to ensure that, when you reunite, you do so as fully actualized beings capable of holding the magnitude of divine union. You chose this journey before incarnating, selected this exact path with all its agony and ecstasy, all its separation and reunion, because your soul knew that nothing less than this intensity would be sufficient to burn away the conditioning, the trauma, the false beliefs that would otherwise keep you trapped in cycles of unconscious relating. The pain you feel now is not punishment, but rather the birthing pains of your authentic self, the necessary dismantling of every identity that is not rooted in soul truth, the excruciating process of becoming who you were always meant to be. If you feel called to receive continued guidance through this separation journey, subscribe now and allow these transmissions to anchor you through the dark night that precedes your reunion. Pain serves as catalyst for awakening, cracking open the shell of the ego so that the light of consciousness can penetrate the darkness of the unconscious, forcing you to examine beliefs about love and worthiness, and belonging that you have carried since childhood, dissolving the patterns that would have remained invisible had you not experienced this level of soul-wrenching heartbreak. Every moment of this agony is purposeful. Every tear shed in the darkness of separation is washing away layers of illusion. Every night you spend alone is teaching you to source your wholeness from within rather than seeking it in another. The spiritual purpose of this pain is your transformation, your evolution, your preparation for a love so vast and so pure that it can only be held by a consciousness that has been forged in the fires of separation and emerged sovereign, whole, and unshakable. In the void, you find your true self, stripped of all the roles you have played, all the masks you have worn, all the ways you have contorted yourself to earn love and approval from a world that could never see you as clearly as your twin flame saw you in those moments of soul recognition. The dark night of separation is teaching you what no amount of spiritual knowledge or intellectual understanding could ever convey. It is teaching you experientially, viscerally, in the depths of your being, that you are whole unto yourself, that your completeness does not depend on their presence, that the love you have been seeking outside yourself has always existed within you. This separation is stripping away codependency, the unconscious pattern of seeking completion in another person, the belief that you are somehow half a being who requires the other half to be whole. It is revealing the ways you have abandoned yourself in pursuit of their love, the ways you have betrayed your own truth to maintain connection, the ways you have made yourself small or acceptable or easy to love rather than standing in the full power of your authentic being. Every illusion about love that you inherited from a wounded culture, every belief about sacrifice and suffering and earning worthiness, is being dismantled in this crucible of separation. You are learning to be whole alone first, to stand in your own sovereignty, to source your joy and peace and sense of purpose from the connection to your own soul rather than from external validation or romantic union. The universe is teaching you that sacred partnership is not about two incomplete beings seeking wholeness in each other, but rather about two whole beings choosing to create something greater together, choosing union from a place of abundance rather than lack, choosing love as an offering rather than as a desperate grasping. What this separation is teaching you cannot be learned any other way. It requires the absence of the other, the void where they once stood, the silence where their voice once filled your days, because only in that emptiness can you discover the fullness that has always resided within you, waiting to be claimed, waiting to be acknowledged, waiting to be embodied. Even in separation, you are bound by energetic cords that no amount of physical distance can sever, tethered at a soul level in ways that transcend the illusion of separateness that governs ordinary human relationships. There exists an invisible thread connecting your heart to theirs, your consciousness to theirs, your energetic field to theirs, and this connection remains active regardless of whether you are speaking or silent, together or apart, in harmony or in painful discord. The twin flame bond is not subject to the laws of time and space. It operates in the quantum field, in the realm of pure consciousness where separation is impossible because you are, at the deepest level, one soul expressing through two bodies. Your souls communicate in ways the ego cannot block, cannot control, cannot interfere with through willpower or decision or conscious intention. You feel them in dreams, vivid and symbolic and impossibly real, where you meet in dimensions beyond the physical and continue the conversation that your human selves cannot yet sustain. You experience telepathy, receiving their thoughts and emotions without explanation, knowing when they are thinking of you with a certainty that defies logic, feeling their energetic shifts even when you have had no contact for weeks or months. Synchronicities appear everywhere, confirming the connection when doubt threatens to consume you. Their name appears repeatedly. Songs that remind you of them play in the most unexpected moments. You see number sequences that carry meaning only to you and them. You encounter symbols and signs that feel too perfectly timed to be coincidence. These are not random occurrences. They are your higher selves communicating through the language of the universe, sending reminders that the bond remains intact beneath the surface drama of separation. The energetic tether ensures that what you do for yourself, you do for them, that your healing contributes to their healing, that your evolution accelerates their evolution, because you are not truly separate beings engaging in separate journeys, but rather two expressions of one consciousness moving through the necessary process of individuation before returning to union. The cord can stretch across continents and years, can withstand silence and new relationships and every attempt to move on, because what is forged at the soul level cannot be undone by the temporary circumstances of the physical realm. Reunion is inevitable but not immediate, written in the fabric of destiny but not constrained by your timeline or your impatience or your ego's desperate need for resolution. The universe operates according to divine timing, not human urgency, and what must happen first is the completion of both individual journeys. You must each walk through your own dark night, face your own shadow, integrate your own fragmented pieces, and emerge as whole sovereign beings capable of holding the frequency of true divine union without collapsing into old patterns of codependency and unconscious relating. Both must complete individual journeys before reunion becomes possible, before the energetic alignment exists that would allow you to come together without immediately triggering the same wounds that caused the separation, without falling back into the runner-chaser dynamic, without recreating the chaos that emerges when two unhealed souls attempt to merge. Your task is to become so whole in yourself that you no longer need them to complete you, so sovereign in your own being that their return becomes a choice rather than a necessity, so anchored in your own worth that their presence enhances your wholeness rather than defines it. When reunion comes, and it will come when both have done the necessary work, it will not look like the desperate clinging of two halves finally finding each other, but rather like the conscious choice of two whole beings recognizing that they can create something sacred together, something that serves not only their individual evolution, but the evolution of collective consciousness itself. The reunion will be marked by peace rather than chaos, by grounded presence rather than overwhelming intensity, by the ability to hold space for each other's humanity while honoring each other's divinity. You will stand before each other as equals, no longer projecting your unhealed wounds onto the other, no longer using the relationship to avoid your own shadow work, no longer seeking salvation or completion or worth in the other's eyes. You will see each other clearly, with compassion for the journey each has walked, with gratitude for the separation that allowed you both to become who you needed to be, with readiness to build something together that honors the sovereignty you each claimed in the darkness of being apart. Share this message with someone who is waiting for their divine reunion, someone who needs to hear that the separation serves a sacred purpose, someone whose soul remembers even when their mind doubts. The vision of reunion sustains you now, anchors you through the unbearable weight of absence, reminds you that this pain is temporary but the bond is eternal. Stop chasing and start becoming. This is your sacred responsibility in this phase of separation, the only task that matters, the singular focus that will determine not only when reunion occurs, but whether you are ready to sustain it when it does. Your job is not to pursue them, not to convince them of the connection, not to wait passively for their return while your life remains on hold, but rather to transform so completely that you become unrecognizable to the person they left, to evolve so radically that you embody a frequency they cannot help but be drawn to when they finally complete their own journey. The more you become whole, the faster they return, not because you are manipulating energy or performing spiritu techniques to force their hand, but because twin flame reunion operates on the principle of energetic resonance. When you raise your frequency through deep shadow work and authentic self-actualization, you create a magnetic pull that reaches across whatever distance separates you, that penetrates whatever walls they have erected, that calls to their soul even when their ego remains resistant. Your transformation is not just about preparing yourself for reunion. It is the catalyst that prepares them, because the work you do on yourself ripples through the energetic connection and activates their own healing process. This is not a time for waiting, for putting your life on pause until they decide to return, for making yourself small or available or perfect enough to deserve their love. This is a time for radical self-reclamation, for pursuing your purpose with single-minded devotion, for building a life so rich and full and aligned with your soul's calling that their return becomes an enhancement rather than a rescue. Do the therapy, the shadow work, the inner child healing that this connection has revealed is necessary. Face every wound they triggered, integrate every disowned part of yourself, heal every attachment pattern that would sabotage sacred union. Become the person you were always meant to be, the fullest expression of your soul's potential, the embodiment of wholeness that no longer seeks completion in another, but offers love as an overflow of internal abundance. This is your sacred work now, the only thing within your control, the most powerful contribution you can make to the reunion that is already written in the stars. What is yours cannot be taken, cannot be lost to time or distance or circumstance or the choices they make in their unconsciousness, because the twin flame bond exists beyond the realm of free will and human decision. It is a soul contract, an agreement made before birth, a destiny that will unfold regardless of how many detours are taken, how many years pass in separation, how many times the ego attempts to sever what the soul has eternally joined. This separation is temporary, a necessary phase in the larger arc of your shared journey, a dark night that will give way to dawn when the time is divinely right, and both souls have completed the individual work required for sacred reunion. The bond is eternal, woven into the fabric of your being, transcending this lifetime and all lifetimes, existing in a dimension where separation is impossible because you are and have always been one consciousness exploring itself through the illusion of duality. Hold the vision of two flames reuniting after their time apart, not as two desperate halves finally made whole, but as two whole beings who have each walked through their own fire and emerged refined, purified, ready to create union that serves the highest good of both individuals and the collective consciousness they touch. Not two halves seeking completion, but two wholes creating something greater, something that could only exist after separation forged each soul in the crucible of solitude and shadow work. The universe has made you a promise through this connection, through the soul recognition you felt in their presence, through the agony of separation that confirms the depth of the bond. You will reunite when both are ready, when the energetic alignment exists to sustain divine union, when you can stand together as sovereign beings choosing love from wholeness rather than seeking love from lack. Until that moment arrives, trust the process, honor the separation, do your sacred work, and know with absolute certainty that what belongs to you is already yours, that the reunion is not a possibility but an inevitability, that this pain is not forever but the bond absolutely is.